founder of the Chicago street gang, the Gangster Disciples. Hoover has been serving multiple life sentences and in a maximum security prison in Colorado for the murder of a 19-year-old neighborhood drug dealer. He is also serving a 200-year sentence in Illinois, but it's not clear if he'll be moved back to Illinois to reserve what remains of that sentence. Hoover's son, Larry Hoover Jr., posted this photo on Instagram, a White House official holding the commutation with the president's signature. Much more on this breaking news story coming up at 5 and 6 o'clock.
Case reacting this afternoon with disappointment, telling us there are just some offenders and crimes that are not deserving of clemency, and Hoover falls in that category. But this afternoon, President Trump disagreeing, commuting Hoover's 6 life sentences on federal convictions to time served. Hoover still faces, however, a 200-year state sentence on a 1973 murder conviction, so it appears he won't be getting out of prison, at least in the near term. It was while behind bars serving time for that murder that federal prosecutors say he continued overseeing the Chicago Gangster Disciples, a gang that he co-founded. And in 1997, he was convicted of running a criminal enterprise. But Hoover's attorney says over the years, Hoover has been rehabilitated and written numerous letters talking about his experience, how he turned to crime, and the good he can do in steering young people away from a similar fate.
He is being held because he is a symbol, not because he needs further incarceration or he hasn't been rehabilitated. He's been a model prisoner for many, many years. He's been examined. He has been determined to be no risk.
If Larry Hoover said there was going to be a killing, there was a killing. If Larry Hoover said there was going to be a beating, there was a beating. If Larry Hoover said there was going to be a drug deal, there was a drug deal.
Hoover's case has drawn the attention of a number of advocates and public figures, including Chance the Rapper and Kanye West. Hoover is currently serving time in Colorado, but with that state sentence, he'll likely be moved at some point to a prison in Illinois. Jim Bradley.
And I'm Lourdes Duarte. We do begin the 4 o'clock news here with some breaking news. President Trump is commuting the sentence of Larry Hoover, co-founder of the notorious Chicago street gang, Gangster Disciples.
The 74-year-old has been seeking early release from 6 life sentences for murder, conspiracy, extortion. He was even accused of continuing to give orders to the gang from behind bars. Hoover is still facing sentencing on state charges. He claims he's a changed man since he went to prison back in 1997. Until now, his petitions for early release have all been denied. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you the latest throughout the evening.
Was commuted on a federal level by President Donald Trump. For people who don't understand what that means that basically, and we talked about this in Front Page News this morning, his charges on the federal level will be like excused or overlooked, but anything else you're still dealing with, you still have to deal with. And Larry Hoover is very much so still dealing with a 200-year sentence for murder on the state level.
State level, right?
Yeah, state level.
So he's not free?
No, he's not.
But people would say welcome home and all that. He is not free.
No, he is not coming home. He is not walking out. Ain't no welcome home Larry Hoover
Remember,
parties.
I didn't even know what it meant. That's why I text you on the group line. What is commutation or what is commute?
Yes.
He was moving him from one person to the other. I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah, Chance the Rapper was one of the people who actually posted online. He didn't understand what was happening. Let's take a listen.
Hey, before I let y'all politicize this or memify this, I just gotta say I am glad that Larry Hoover's home. And I gotta remind y'all that he was a political prisoner that was set up by the federal government, that he created the Chicago votes. He did so many things to really mobilize our people, and he was really targeted for that. And so before get to cooning or doing whatever they finna do with this information, I just want to say I'm so glad that he's home, and God bless his family, and yeah, thank God.
Has commuted the life sentence of former Chicago gang leader Larry Hoover.
A formal announcement has not been made, but this has been confirmed by a White House official to the Associated Press. Hoover has been serving his sentence at a Supermax prison in Colorado. He was originally in prison for a murder that happened back in 1973 and was later convicted in 1998 for operating a criminal enterprise. In recent years, he renounced his criminal activities and sought a reduced sentence through a formal petition. We'll have much more on this throughout the day.
He's the reputed leader of the Black Gangster Disciples street gang, one of the largest in the nation. For 20 years, he's been locked behind prison walls because of a murder conviction. This week, he goes before the state parole board, and he could soon be a free man. Tonight, he is breaking his silence. Channel 2's John Davis has the story you'll see first on Channel 2 News.
I've done my time. I paid my debt to society.
Larry Hoover, also known as King Larry, the reputed head of the Black Gangster Disciples, he is now 42 years old, older and wiser, he says.
Anytime you do a extensive amount of time, it can have two effects. It can harden you, or it can make you think. And I've thought.
And apparently he's done a lot of thinking about stopping the senseless gang-related violence plaguing the streets of Chicago. Violence, he says, over vague ideologies.
One teenager don't like the other teenager because the way he wears his hat. Because his ideology is different from his. A disciple don't like a vice lord. We all black people. It's no different.
Hoover admits to being one of the architects of Chicago's fragile gang truce. He also takes credit for authorizing members of his so-called street organization to march on City Hall last May during a protest over plans to close healthcare clinics in African-American neighborhoods. After spending 20 years in the Illinois prison system, Larry Hoover has just about seen it all. He started out at the maximum security prison at Stateville. 6 years ago, he came here to Vienna, a minimum security prison in the southern part of the state. Some say it is the final step toward freedom. Hoover says he knows he can't change the past, but that he wants the chance to prove that he can be a positive influence on the future. John Davis, Channel 2 News.
Hoover's parole hearing is set for Thursday. On Wednesday, several prominent African-American leaders will testify in support of Hoover's release.
Currently at the notorious Supermax prison in Colorado, his family hasn't been able to speak with him today to get his reaction to his commutation. Hoover still faces the remainder of a state prison sentence for murder, but his family is hoping for clemency from Governor Pritzker.
It's overwhelming. It's a long time coming, and we just want to hope it go all the way through.
The wife and son of Larry Hoover, after his 6 federal life sentences, were commuted by President Trump.
And he deserves redemption. He deserves a second chance at being a part of this community. And he could be a benefit to this community if they want him to be a benefit to this community.
Hoover co-founded the Chicago Gangster Disciples, and while behind bars for a 1973 murder, federal prosecutors say he continued to run the gang's prolific multi-state drug operations.
If Larry Hoover said there was going to be a killing, there was a killing.
Ron Safer was the lead federal prosecutor who secured Hoover's 1997 conviction for running a criminal enterprise behind bars.
I believe in redemption, but there are some crimes that are so horrific that they deserve the punishment to the full extent of the law.
As years passed, Hoover's case drew increasing attention, including from artists like Kanye West and Chance the Rapper.
And I gotta remind y'all that he was a political prisoner.
He is being held because he is a symbol, not because he needs further incarceration or he hasn't been rehabilitated.
The president's commutation only applies to Hoover's federal sentence. He still faces state prison time for which he's eligible for parole. Governor J.B. Pritzker can also offer clemency.
We know that Governor Pritzker believes in rehabilitation, redemption, and transformation, and he's done all of that.
A governor spokesperson declined to comment on Hoover's case, but said inmates seeking parole or clemency must petition the Illinois Prisoner Review Board, which makes parole decisions and issues recommendations to the governor regarding clemency. Larry Hoover.
Federal sentence of Larry Hoover, a former Chicago gang leader serving a life sentence.
However, that doesn't mean Hoover will be back on the streets anytime soon. WGN's Jenna Barnes joining us now with more on that. Jenna.
Mike and Ray, Hoover is now 75 years old. He was denied parole in this federal case just last year. Now with his commutation, he's expected to be moved from a Supermax prison in Colorado back here to Illinois to serve prison time for a state sentence for murder. The notorious founder of the Gangster Disciples, Larry Hoover, was serving 6 life sentences in federal prison, convicted of running his criminal enterprise from inside an Illinois prison in the 1990s after his 1973 conviction for murder in the state.
There are crimes that are so heinous that they are not entitled to mercy, and his are among those.
Ron Safer was the lead prosecutor in Hoover's federal case.
There's no question that it is the biggest, most well-organized, most efficient drug organization that the country has ever known.
But advocates, including celebrities, have been fighting for Hoover's release. Kanye West and Drake holding a benefit concert for the cause in 2021. Hoover himself was in court just last year fighting for early release, renouncing his past. And Wednesday, President Donald Trump commuted his federal sentence. Hoover's attorneys writing, the courts have demonstrated a complete unwillingness to consider Mr. Hoover's considerable growth and complete rehabilitation.
We've got to learn how to respect one another and keep each other alive. Any voice that comes out with that message that may be able to help somebody, I'm for.
But Hoover's release from federal custody isn't freedom. He must return to Illinois to serve his 200-year sentence for murder, though legal experts say he is eligible for parole. The Department of Corrections website already lists him as an inmate in Dixon, but it's unclear if he's been moved yet.
When you locked up in them institutions and you have your conversation with God, Father God, let me out, I'll never do it again.
Former gang enforcer Wallace Gator Bradley, who has received a pardon, is hoping the governor will intervene and commute the state sentence.
I pray that Governor J.B. Pritzker would do it in here, and I pray that God hear the prayers of everyone that's asking him to do it. And in my heart and soul, I feel he's going to do it.
No official statement from the governor's office on that idea tonight. If Hoover wants to pursue parole or clemency, he would need to petition the Prisoner Review Board. It makes parole decisions and the clemency recommendations to the governor. We're live on the North Side tonight. Jenna Barnes, W.
Trump commutes the federal life sentences of a notorious Chicago gang leader.
Larry Hoover co-founded the Gangster Disciples and has spent decades in prison. But even with this decision by the president, it's unlikely he will get out of prison anytime soon.
Our Charlie DeMar is here to explain why.
And Joe and Erica, the Free Larry Hoover movement has been loud for a number of years, and while this is a victory for Larry Hoover's federal case, he still faces what amounts to a life sentence for a 1973 state murder conviction. So this move from the president does not grant Hoover his freedom. A White House official posed for this picture with Larry Hoover's federal commutation signed by President Donald Trump.
He deserves to have redemption. He did 52 years.
Hoover's family celebrated the news on social media.
We are having a great day, everybody.
I've done my time. I paid my debt to society.
CBS Chicago reporter John Davis spoke to Hoover in 1993. At the time, the notorious co-founder of Chicago's Gangster Disciples had already served 20 years for his 1973 state murder conviction.
It can harden you, or it can make you think. And I've thought.
But just a year after this interview, Hoover was sentenced to consecutive federal life sentences for running his criminal enterprise from prison. Ron Safer was the federal prosecutor.
We tape recorded him while in prison, ordering shootings, organizing narcotics transactions.
Just thrilled for him, thrilled for his family, thrilled for all of his supporters who have been chanting Free Larry Hoover for a long time.
Jennifer Bonjean is Hoover's attorney.
He has literally done every single thing a human being could do to show that they have been rehabilitated.
I love you like no other.
Wallace Gator Bradley, a former Gangster Disciple enforcer, has long advocated for Hoover's release.
God has been trying to censor and silence Larry Hoover's voice.
Why has it been important for you to call for his freedom, to call for his release?
I've been calling for it since 92 or 93. I know that he has served his time. I'm happy beyond measure.
I believe in redemption. I also believe that there are some crimes that are so heinous, so breathtakingly evil that the justice system requires that they be punished to the full extent of the law.
And Hoover appeared before the State Parole Board in 2022 and was denied. Governor J.B. Pritzker has not commented on whether he would consider commuting Hoover's sentence. Joe and Erica.
A lot of response for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Charlie.
You know, the Creator opened the gates up and allowed him to be free. And the beautiful thing about him is he don't take his freedom for granted. You know what I mean? He free, and he ain't forgot where he came from. You know what I mean? That's my brother Larry Hoover spoke about that sleeping giant. You know, me and him was kicking it on the intro of the Ghetto Boys when he said he's scared of him because he know how to awaken that sleeping giant. And that was a powerful thing that was being said, and that's what we looking forward, you know, to the day and his freedom, so we can awaken the sleeping giant. And so many that sleep and that won't listen to those that they don't respect. You know, I look forward to the day of being able to share that journey, share that walk, share that creativity with my brother on how to free a lot of our people out of bondage. And every politician that's for that, we're going to be with them too. You know what I mean? The real ones that's really for our people, then that's who's going to get my vote. You know what I mean? The real politicians that's for our people. I don't discriminate.
Well, he's a leader that needs to be free right now, that can really lead us in this struggle we're dealing with right now. Definitely where Chicago is concerned, but you know, I consider him a political prisoner as well. You know what I mean? He someone who they want us to forget about. You know, they put you behind the walls that he behind. They want us to forget about him, but here's the good news where he concerned, and what I really believe. I believe he'll be home real soon.
Tu vois, il raconte un peu sanguinolent, tu vois, un peu dépressif, tu vois, un peu nonchalant. La désinvolture, je mets la désinvolture. Comme ça? La désinvolture. Voilà, c'est pas mal.